YouTube Going the Goat House is back after week 9 of the NFL. Sunday's action of week 9. Another interesting week, another wild week, some upsets, some unpredictable outcomes. Been an interesting season, but these last couple weeks been very interesting. I'm here to give you my takeaways on those games like we do every single Monday. Weekly picks, score predictions, power rankings on the way for week 10. So join us for that. Like, subscribe, turn notifications on. We'll update our playoff predictions since we're halfway through the season. We'll do some player rankings since we're halfway through the season. So I'm excited about all that. What's to come here at the Goat House. Follow our Twitter. There it is on your screen. A lot of updates. Deshaun Jackson signed with the Raiders. We predicted that on Twitter. Odell Beckham Jr. Will be waived today. He'll probably clear waivers. We have a recent video on that. And then he'll probably sign with the team maybe tomorrow. So we'll have you updated on all that. So first one, the Browns pounded the Bengals here 41-16. That pick six by Denzel Ward to start the game was massive, absolutely massive. If that doesn't happen, I think it's a whole different game. The Browns did dominate the entire game. They won 41-16, so it's fair to say that the Browns probably still would have won, but that was a massive play. Massive play to start. The Bengals are marching down the field pretty easily. And that's just a really bad throw by Burrow. It's just way too far on the inside. Just a free pick for Denzel Ward, and he's obviously gone for 6. Then the Bengals start to move the ball with ease again, and then it ends up being a tie game. It's like, okay, the Bengals moving the ball well enough to be up 14-0 right now. They just had that mistake. But then it just kind of turned around from that point. The Browns did an excellent job. The offensive line did an excellent job protecting Baker and blocking. Nick Chubb was hitting the hole and then making people miss after the hole. Just absolutely dominant. See Donovan Peoples-Jones getting going downfield. Baker was smooth. They just looked like a better team without Odell. People were saying that last year because technically they were, but I think they just got better at some point. Obviously the question was, are they really better without the talented player of Odell Beckham Jr.? But it was kind of odd to have that show up again. Myles Garrett had a big game there. Usually the Bengals been pretty good against the blitz. Joe Burrow been pretty good against the blitz this year. That's your typical blitz linebackers shooting through the gaps. The Browns, good game plan. Use Troy Hill from the slot a bit on the blitz. That might be the key there. Joe Burrow was definitely off. Jamar Chase was off a bit. There was a big play downfield. Greg Newsom's been great. Had Jamar Chase locked up. I do think if Joe Burrow put that far enough, it's probably a touchdown. I just thought there would be more from the Bengals receivers, but we see what a Browns healthy defense looks like. It's very good. We kind of saw it for a portion there earlier in the year. There was a few game stretch where the defense looked like the best in football. It was kind of them and the Bills. So we saw that there. Bengals kind of coming back down to earth. I kind of said that about the offensive line. I could see it. Maybe it's starting to happen a little bit. The offensive line kind of going to go back to where it was. Maybe they fooled us a little bit early on. That definitely seems to be the case. The team in general is starting to let us down, and maybe they kind of fooled us a little bit. I think they need specific matchups to look good here because this was not a good one. If the game didn't start with a pick six, maybe it could have been a different game, but you expect them to kind of take care of business at home in these divisional games. So last couple weeks been definitely a rough one for the Bengals. Joe Burrow got to play better. The offensive line's got to play better. Just can't make those mistakes to start the game. So that's not a good start it's not a good game for the Bengals there. Not a good last 2 weeks. We'll see if they can dig themselves out of the hole because they showed us good play before with the Browns. That's what they needed. They get going. They're going to play the Patriots next week. That should be a pretty damn good game. Excited for that. Broncos, Cowboys. The Broncos probably had the best performance on the day. I guess debatable out of all teams in week 9, but I'd say the Broncos. Score 30-16. It looks like a big win, but it was even bigger of a win. It was really 30-0 for a bit. Cowboys, I know they wanted to score some points, but with their injury concerns, especially Dak, I'm surprised that they did what they did, especially in the end. They run a quarterback draw with Dak Prescott and when the game's over to score a touchdown at the end. So I don't know if I agree with that. Broncos, what I saw in the Browns game Thursday Night Football a few weeks ago is just totally different than what I've seen the last couple weeks from mainly this defense. Because the Broncos are kind of known. This is a pretty good defense, right? Pretty damn good defense. But then, look at a game like the Browns, and they just got bullied by backups pretty much. They couldn't tackle. And I was like, what happened? What happened to this team? But then it just completely flipped the last couple weeks. I mean, Washington's like they dominated that game, but it is Washington, so don't really know for sure. and they go out and dominate one of the best offenses in football here of the Cowboys. And, I mean, they're forcing these third and fourth down situations, and they are stopping them pretty much every time in these situations. They're getting pressure on Dak. They're locked down in coverage. They're forcing Dak to kind of make deeper throws on those, fourth downs. And some of them were actually open. Dak was a little rusty maybe. He was missing some of those throws. Felt like he had CeeDee Lamb open a few times. Was kind of just missing him a little bit by a little bit there. So that was unfortunate. I don't really mind taking those shots. I don't know if they were necessarily the play call. I see people blaming the play calling. I don't think that was actually the case. I don't really mind it anyways. Running the ball, the running game seemed to be effective for the Cowboys, but they got down so much so early that they couldn't really use it more. Maybe you wish they would have used it more in those crucial downs. They did early, though. Justin Simmons got in the backfield and stuck Zeke Elliott there on that first fourth down. That was a huge play, a free safety that plays a lot of single high free, making those types of plays. Pretty damn impressive. Kareem Jackson seemed like he was all over the place. Jonathan Cooper was outstanding for the Broncos. Said it in that Thursday night game. Von Miller was hyping up himself. He was going to have a big game. Kind of non-existent, then went down hurt. Cooper comes in, and Cooper looks better than him. Is he better than Von Miller? Probably not, but he looks better than them, and he had 2 sacks in this game, too. The defense, it was a team effort from that defense, a unit, just flying around with the football. Everybody playing at a high level, so that was an impressive game for the Broncos. They're sneaky on offense in terms of, they'll randomly hit these kind of deep shots, somewhat deep shots to kind of towards the sideline. They had a deep shot to Tim Patrick for a touchdown that was on Diggs. But Teddy's kind of sneaky sometimes, just a little inconsistent. But the way he's able to, get accurate on those deep balls towards the sideline. Javonte Williams had a big game, so maybe that's a Cowboys' weakness for their defense is a physical runner. Javonte Williams had himself a ball game. I was a huge Javonte Williams guy heading into the draft there, so keep giving that guy the ball. That seemed to be a kind of a matchup problem for the Cowboys. This is an impressive win for the Broncos. Got going on both sides of the ball. The defense is extremely impressive. Can they keep rolling? They were rolling to start the year, then they went pretty damn cold. Now they're rolling again, and they beat a pretty damn good team here in the Cowboys, and they dominated them. So pretty damn impressive. Cowboys, they were looking like one of the best teams in football. This isn't good, really, but Dak could have been a little rusty again. He barely missed some of these throws that could have really changed the whole game. So it's not like you got to panic at all. But, the Broncos flustered them. They had a really good game plan there. So maybe teams, it's just kind of the time of year where, offenses don't look as powerful as they did earlier in the year because the game plan's kind of coming out and you're starting to play better defenses and teams are catching on. So it's only one game, but is that the case? But it seems to be a trend around the NFL every single year. So maybe the Broncos figured something out there. That's a big-time win for them. Texans, Dolphins, not an entertaining game. It was pretty much Dolphins defense. Dolphins defense deserves a lot of credit. They pretty much won this game, but it was kind of who played worse was going to lose. It kind of had that feeling to it. Tyrod Taylor looked good to start the year, then got hurt. The Texans were a lot worse. Tyrod Taylor back, but he looked pretty bad in this game. So was it the injury affect him? Is he rusty? Was it just early? Because early season, there's a lot of guys that look good that aren't actually good. It happens every year and a bunch of times this year already. So don't really know what it is for sure, but it was a bad game. We know that for sure. It started with end zone interception by Javon Holland, the rookie from Oregon, who picked off Tyrod Taylor. That was massive play. That probably, if the Texans score a touchdown there, Dolphins don't get that pick and start with a score, it could be a whole different game, really. It could be a whole different game. But the credit to the Dolphins defense, they made plays. Emmanuel Ogbah was everywhere. Jerome Baker. Tyrod Taylor just flipped him the ball. That one play, that was an odd play. But, yeah, the Dolphins just get, Waddle had a good game. Again, first, number one on the list, Dolphins defense kind of won the game. If I had to order it, how this outcome happened, I say the Dolphins defense made plays. Number two was just kind of whoever played worse was going to lose because Tyrod Taylor they have 4 turnovers total, 3 interceptions. Jacoby Brissett was turning the ball over a bit, and they just don't. The running game is non-existent. It's a poor running game for the Dolphins. I know the blocking doesn't help, but they definitely need an upgrade, really, in both those spots I just mentioned. But yeah, so it was pretty sloppy play from both offenses. Gesicki had a ridiculous one-handed catch. Wish they would use him a little more in the red zone. They kind of got him in the slot going across the field every play after play after play after they get in the red zone. put them outside. Use them in goal line fade. It's kind of like if I had to pick out guys for a goal line fade, if I in the whole NFL, I think Gesicki's got to be up there. That's just me maybe. So, but the Dolphins get the win. They were on a big time losing streak and they pull it off. I'm on fire picking those Dolphins games this year. Next, Falcons and Saints, wild game. The Falcons dominated most of this game. Well, in the start, I guess they didn't really dominate it. They were just had a lead. Simeon was actually playing pretty well early. If you didn't watch the game, then you don't know. Simeon was actually throwing some pretty good, not just like accurate balls, but there were some throws that were tough. He kind of had to go on the move, tight window between defenders, or tight windows between the receiver and the sideline. He was hitting them. There was some throws where there was only specific spots he could put them. They weren't going to be the most dead accurate throws, but he had to put them there, and they were hitting there. He was looking good, but the receiver, that's the storyline of this game for the Saints, how they started. They had to come back. The Falcons were dominating most of this game. They shouldn't allow them to come back. That's the Falcons. Did something with the Falcons. That's just what it is. I don't know how, but that's just what it is. So the Falcons definitely deserve to win, but the Saints, it could have been a whole lot different. They could have won this game. They didn't have to go for that big comeback if they just caught the damn ball early in the game. That was a big problem. Receivers, tight ends, Trotman really struggling. I was never a big Trotman guy coming out of college either. Was never really that high on him. I didn't really understand the hype. Receivers struggling. Just balls, perfect balls, hitting guys in the hands. There was one. They dropped 3 within a few plays at one point. So it's all kind of getting mixed up on who was exactly what play. I think Deontay Harris and Traquan Smith dropped almost back to back and the Trotman's drop was in there somewhere too. I want to say it was Deontay Harris. I definitely believe it was on this play where the ball kind of had to be placed low, but a receiver could have put his hands down there and caught it. I thought it was a good throw by Simeon, and then Harris kind of just goes down to his knees and slides at the ball. Just unnecessary things like that. Mistakes that I really shouldn't see besides just the point of just brick hands, So I actually thought Simeon played a pretty good game. He did get strip sacked, but I thought he played a pretty good game. It's just surprising, too, because Simeon was known as not that good of a quarterback. I was impressed by some of his throws in this game. So the Saints desperately need help at receiver and tight end. It's pretty obvious. It's kind of Kamara. Again, Simeon played well, but Kamara's kind of got to carry Ingram. They kind of got to carry the load here. So a pretty winnable game for the Saints, but that's a good game for the Falcons. Matt Ryan definitely had his good moments. The Saints shut down. It was odd because the Saints completely took away the running game from the Falcons. They completely took it away, which was kind of expected. But so you're pretty much one-dimensional. The Falcons, who are extremely inconsistent on offense, and when they play good defenses, they kind of fold a little bit, and they're made one-dimensional against a pretty damn good defense, but they're still able to light it up. So that was kind of the surprising thing from the Falcons and from the Saints. The passing game was working. They were just kind of getting the ball to Patterson in space, but, Zacchaeus getting going. Matt Ryan spreading the ball out pretty damn well there. So that was a little bit surprising, that the Saints' pass defense was struggling that much, especially when they knew in the pass rush too. It's not like they played bad, but the Falcons were made one-dimensional, so you would think they'd be playing a little better. So credit to Matt Ryan there. During the comeback though, Matt Ryan holding on to the ball too long, not really sure to do it under pressure. That seems to happen even in his good games. As they're kind of blowing the comeback. Dolphins, he kind of did that and he ended up fumbling in that game. It seems to be a trend here, so it can't happen. But they did blow the comeback, but they have that. Matt Ryan clutches up, hits Cordero Patterson, drops a dime in there, and they go win that game. So that was pretty clutch. The Saints fought back. Guys were catching the ball, and they were able to move the ball and score. So. If it wasn't for all those drops, you could argue that the Saints would have won the game, but that doesn't mean the Falcons weren't deserving, and they outplayed the Saints for most of this game. So that's a big-time away win, divisional away win there for the Falcons. The Saints, kind of getting hyped in the last week because they beat up the Bucs, and now this. So it's just a matchup thing for the Saints. It feels like they're a different team every week, so we'll see what happens here. But you would think it'd be the quarterback's fault since it's Simeon in there. Was not the case, actually. So Raiders-Giants. Man, this game almost went exactly how I said it was going to go, but I did pick the Raiders. It's kind of one of those ones I'm pissed at myself for because I was really, I mean, if you watch the videos during the week, I was really considering the Giants, and I had reasons for the Giants at the same time as reasons for the Raiders, and I predicted a 24-23 Raiders win. If the Raiders would have scored, I'm like, oh, they got to go for two, win the exact score, and they were knocking on the door at the end. So, but yeah, the reason... the Giants home, and their defense has been really stepping up, and they've been getting a lot more pass rush lately, and that was kind of the reasoning for the Giants. I talked about Derek Carr. I mean, every quarterback's different when they're kept clean and when they're under pressure, but Derek Carr is kind of that poster child of the major difference. Looks like an elite quarterback, MVP quarterback kept clean. Looks like a bad quarterback when under pressure, and that kind of showed in this game. I'm actually not going to put... if I had to make a list of who to blame, I'm actually not going to put Derek Carr number one there. I'm going to put him number two. I'm going to put him number two there because he did. I mean, it's tough not to put him number one though because he did make mistakes. He did make some big mistakes. If it wasn't for that pick six, Xavier McKinney, big time play for him. That was a really good play from him. That was a severely underthrown, thrown inside ball by Derek Carr though. But if it wasn't for that pick six, I feel like the Raiders could have won this game. And then at the end of the game, it's like, I don't know if anybody else was like me watching that game, but I was thinking when they're moving at the end, I'm like, all right, the Raiders are going to score. It's just, do they force over? Do they kick the extra point? That's what I was thinking. They kick the extra point for overtime. They go for two to win right now, since they're getting going and the Giants defense kind of give them problems. And now's your chance. That's what I was thinking. I thought they were going to score. I really thought they were going to score. And then Derek Carr, strip sack fumble. Was that Quincy Roche, who was extra for the Steelers? It was a surprise. And the Steelers actually cut him. We talked about that then. They need him. They need a depth guy right now. So it's a big-time play. But again, the two crucial moments of the pick six and the strip sack for Derek Carr. So a pretty bad game there. But, I guess 1A and 1B, who to blame? The play callers. And it's almost been looking like they're better without Gruden, but not this game. The Giants, again, like I've been saying, they've been playing very, very good defense because they've been getting pressure on the quarterback and their secondary. Bunch of ball players in that secondary, and they got good depth. That's why if you can find an area where you can kind of beat the Giants defense, you're never going to really torch them, but where you can beat them, it's running the football. Even the Chiefs, without Edwards-Helaire, they were able to bully them a little bit and get, north and south blocking and runs pretty good. Even the Chiefs, so that should have been on the Raiders' game plan. And then you look within the game, they were running pretty well. I was tweeting about this morning. I want to kind of get the exact numbers. I got to look at my own tweet again because the numbers are pretty insane. The lack of runs from the Raiders. So they threw the ball 46 times, and Derek Carr threw 2 interceptions, sacked, fumbled during that. Josh Jacobs averaged 5.8 yards per carry. That's pretty damn good. Kenyon Drake averaged 7.5 yards per carry, which is ridiculous. And those guys combined for only 17 carries. It's kind of just common sense stuff. I know you can't really go off the stats. Would the average been that much if they carried the ball more? Probably not, But you get an idea. It's kind of, to me, just common sense stuff. You don't want to overthink things. The running game is working. Even going into the game, the running game is supposed to be the key against the Giants defense. Again, you're not going to run all over them. I mean, maybe you would have, but that should be the key. And they were in this game. They were either winning this game or they were losing. It was close. It's not like they didn't want to waste clock and they were down too much. Run the damn football. You put the ball in the hands of Derek Carr under pressure too much, and you didn't put that ball in the hands of Drake and Jacobs enough. So that was pretty damn crucial. So mistakes by the play callers and by Derek Carr in this game. Giants clutch up. The Raiders outgained them by a lot. You look at that, and then you kind of let it go back on coaching, but the pick six kind of factors into that too. But the Raiders completely outgained them. The Giants didn't have to do a whole lot on offense. Booker ran pretty effectively. They didn't have to do a whole lot. They really didn't. Credit to that defense again. Giants defense is pretty damn good. Raiders will play the Chiefs on Sunday night this upcoming week here, so let's see if they can turn it back around. Play calling and Derek Carr got to be better. Patriots, Panthers, kind of went similar to how I thought it would go. A little bit more, a bigger victory, I suppose, for the Patriots. This game didn't really have to be this bad for the Panthers, though, because the Patriots were kind of struggling early a bit. Damian Harris couldn't get much going. Mac Jones threw a pick to former Patriot Gilmore somewhat early. they couldn't really do a whole lot. And the Panthers, they were kind of moving the ball a little bit, a little, not a lot, but a little more than you thought they would be able to against the Patriots. But then, Sam Darnold just throwing the ball to the wrong team once they start moving the ball. I mean, Jimmy Collins made a ridiculous play on that one. I mean, that was an insane play, elite play. Like, that's the guy that was cut by the Lions. I mean, just ridiculous play. But the Patriots use him a lot different. They got him in this right role. He's not just a strict, firm off the ball linebacker. There's a lot more in that. But yeah, Sam Darnold's got to take care of it. I mean, Matt Rule said after the game, like, I don't want to put the blame on one guy, but we can't just throw the ball up in the air to the other team. So kind of put the game on one guy there. So Patriots end up dominate this game. They get a touchdown on defense. They get the takeaways. That's the difference. Again, Damian Harris got a touchdown. He couldn't really get going. Ramondre Stevenson, who I was a big fan of out of Oklahoma, he played himself. He had a good game. He actually led the Patriots in rushing and in receiving, which is good game for him. That's great, promising. But that kind of shows you the receiving end of things. That kind of shows you, and then he had that much of a better game than Damian Harris. Kind of shows you they weren't too effective offensively in this game, but they got the job done, obviously. They win big, 24-6. Always love that defense. Belichick, very good at game planning, very good at really throwing off the opposing quarterback, giving different looks. But it's just a poor game from Sam Darnold. It's another one of those games where it's just like we've seen that in the past, and it's just kind of mind-blowing that really people thought he was going to wake up one day and just be a whole lot better, But the Patriots take care of business as we expected on that one. Not expected one here. Just imagine if I sat down during the week and told you guys right here, the Jags aren't going to score a touchdown against the Buffalo Bills. And you're probably like, yeah, that sounds right. But they're going to win the game, And you'd be like, you're fucking stupid, That would be the reaction if anybody predicted that, which nobody in the world did, or would have. But that's just crazy. It's just mind-blowing that the Jags didn't score a touchdown and they won the football game against the Buffalo Bills. 9-6. Wild game. Credit to the Jags defense in this one. I was going to try to find some credit to their offense, but the offense didn't really do anything. I guess they did enough. Apparently they did enough here, but credit to the Jags defense. Really good game plan for some teams have been able to game plan well for the Bills. For Josh Allen, you look at the Steelers, and you look at the Jags, and the Titans did some good things in certain moments, not a whole lot, but you just felt like the right game plans from those teams. So credit to the Jags defensive coaching staff and how the defense played. Josh Allen had himself a day against Josh Allen. People get a little too excited about that. I'm just excited that a good young player had a really good game, because I like Josh Allen a lot out of Kentucky. And he's a phenomenal ball player, right? He's going to be a great ball player. So he had a ridiculous game, got to be up for Defensive Player of the Week. How about Rudy Ford? That guy was everywhere. Man, I was excited about that because he was everywhere. He had himself a real good game there. So he was everywhere as well. It was kind of a team effort, too. I mean, maybe the bad play was letting up. I think it was a 3rd and 22. Wasn't a fan of the coverage on that play, but other than that, all around, just really good team effort, team defensive effort there from the Jaguars. So they pull off the upset win with defense. Man, the Bills got 3 losses. It's weird. We think the Bills are that, really, really good. They're sitting there at 5-3. That's a little concerning, in a game like that. It is concerning. It's very concerning. We thought coming off the bye last week against the Dolphins that the Bills' offense was a little rusty there. They got the job done. They clutched up in the right moments, but it looked kind of similar this week, but worse at the same time because you would think the Dolphins' defense better than the Jags. I guess debatable, but so that's a little concerning. People putting the blame here, there. Actually, a lot of the fans just putting the blame in one spot. They're just putting it on the offensive line, which is false. Reality. I think which most of us, from a neutral position, realize that it's a lot of people's fault. I don't want to say people's, but a lot of things, units, maybe sometimes people's fault here in a game like this. You don't only score 6 points against the Jags. I mean, Geno Smith scored 31 points against the Jags last week. Had himself a good game when he was struggling. And that Seahawks offense without Chris Carson, struggling offensive line, 2 receivers basically. So you don't just have that bad of a game. 6 points. Just cause the offensive line. If you actually watch this game, and I watched every game, obviously. The offensive line played bad. It didn't play good. Definitely didn't play good. But if you watch other games, there's nothing unusual. I guess maybe the different part, the unique part, it's either Josh Allen had all day to throw, which I mean all day. There's a lot of reps like that, or it was kind of instant pressure. There was no, I guess doesn't have a lot of time, but he has time. It wasn't really a lot of that, but and Josh Allen is to blame on a lot of this too, because he played a very bad game. You don't just only score 6 points because of the offensive line. Like I said, he played a bad game. He was running into pressure. There's times where he had a lot of time and he wasn't leaving the pocket, which we're used to seeing him do that and want to run and want to throw on the run. He wasn't doing that for some reason. Again, kind of running into the pressure and just making bad decisions, and throwing to the wrong team and fumbling the ball. It just can't happen. We can't find excuses. We can't find ways around it. It's just a bad game and it cannot happen. It's a little scary when that pops up. He's a great quarterback still. It just can't happen. But the big one, if I had to put who is to blame most in this game, there's a lot of things, but if I had to rank them, number 3, the offensive line, number 2, which it's their fault as well. That's why I'm ranking them. Number 2, Josh Allen, and then number 1 is the play callers in this game, Brian Daboll, which was pretty bad, pretty damn bad. And we've seen this pop up even last year. Great season for the Bills, but when they play in the playoffs, their offense a little underwhelming, not what we're used to. And there was a reason for that. I talked about it all offseason because everybody game plan for the pass. It was pretty. If we can, you take the guessing game away from defense. Teams can play defense a lot better. It's a lot easier. And they're going to pass. You just got a game plan for the pass. And that kind of popped up in this game. Again, I believe it was a total of 9 carries for the Bills running backs. So Moss and Singletary, I don't care who the backs are, a total of 9 carries when this game was either tied, the Bills were up 3, or the Bills were down 3. Why is that important? Because you're in the game very easily. The reason if you don't run the ball, it's a lot of time the reason you don't see teams running the ball, it's because you don't want to run clock and you're trying to come back. But that wasn't the case here. Josh Allen not having a good game, making mistakes, the offensive line making mistakes, and you're passing the ball that much and ignoring the run. So, but the big piece of this and what the offensive line was put in a very poor situation here because the Jaguars were playing pass. If it's a pass, you're gonna pass rush. If you pass rush a certain way, get more on the outside, more pressure on the outside, and that's your goal. And you guess wrong, and it's a run, you might be in trouble. So that's why teams don't do a whole lot of that all the time. But since the Bills put it on a platter for them, we're not running the ball, we're passing the ball. They made it very, very easy. So the offensive line was put in a shit situation, and I suppose Josh Allen was as well. But there was times where, again, if you watch other games, there's guys that are under pressure a lot more, and there's quarterbacks that will never for any one play in a game will be able to sit back there for some time. There was some times where Allen was able to sit back there, so he played a pretty bad game there. So it's a very bad job by Daboll and this coaching staff to not run the ball more, just staying as predictable as can be. They're to blame mainly for this game, and a lot of fans are like, we want Daboll as our head coach. I don't know about that. The big games last year did the same thing, and I said in the offseason the Bills were so close yet so far from a Super Bowl. They made the AFC Championship, but it felt like they weren't that close because they just all of a sudden couldn't get offense going, and it just felt like one of those things where if you're that predictable and you have no running game, and you have to rely on this home run play, but multiple of home run plays in the defense, you're never gonna win a Super Bowl with that. I'm not saying that's the case here with the Bills because they can easily turn it around, but the way it was called last year in those big games, you're so close, but yet you're just so far, and you can be close in terms of the final scores, but you're just never gonna win with something like that. You need more balance, So it's actually been a thing. It's not just one game here. So that's very disappointing there. That's a big momentum one for the Jags there, but they got to get some offense going. They got to get some offense going here. But they were missing James Robinson. Trevor Lawrence went down this game. I know he came back in. That's a disappointing one from the Bills. So not as high on them as we were because you can game plan for them for sure. Their defense played a pretty good game. Give them credit there. Vikings, Ravens. The Vikings have done it again. And if you remember the predictions this week, I kind of predicted this one, exactly. But it's pretty easy to predict the Vikings here. I like the matchup for them. I like the game plan matchup because they should be able to run on the Ravens. They should be able to throw on the Ravens. The Ravens game is blitzing. The Vikings usually can pass versus the blitz. They just can't pass against an elite edge rush, So I predict the Vikings to get going. They'll probably outplay their opponent for a portion of this game, and they're going to blow it in the end, probably lose by around 3 points, and that's exactly what happened. The Vikings actually dominated the first half of this game, more than what the score showed, actually, too. They just completely outplaying them, both sides of the ball. And everything's working well. They attack downfield to get their lead. They run. It's good play calling. It's good play calling to get to that point, but then they kind of just shut down after that. We're used to seeing that. Second half, they even return opening kickoff. Like, you get that going for you, and you still can't pull off the win. And it could be two things. Just the more talented team. The other team's got a lot more talent than you, and you just need more talent. Or coaching just doesn't know how to put the game away. We see the Vikings, they have talent. I know guys got hurt. At one point, they were down to a lot of starters in defense, so I guess that was a reason why they couldn't stop the Ravens a lot. But it's still, just not being able to put teams away and only be able to call the right plays and go for it, go get it early in games. And when you're losing games, that's the only time they can do it. They completely shut down, go 3-and-out, and all of a sudden they're losing the game against the Ravens, and they go score to force overtime. It's just a common theme for the Vikings as well. The Ravens dominated the second half for the most part here because time possession, holding on to the ball. Lamar Jackson clutched up. He was a little flustered for a chunk of this game, but clutching up, making plays, they didn't really have to throw the ball downfield. Just kind of get the ball to Hollywood in space. The running backs, Bell, Freeman, creating some big plays there as well. So there was a good comeback for the Ravens because they got completely outplayed in the first half. So that's a big time win for them. Loss wouldn't have been good coming off the bye, but it did go to overtime. And the Ravens actually get stopped. Either they're going to go down there and score, or they actually get stopped. The Vikings get the ball, and then you get a running back swing pass to the short side, and then you get a run to the short side. You wasted 2 downs, third down, so just poor play calling again. So Vikings had an opportunity. They had a big opportunity. They were up big, and they kind of blew that game away. Just who's next up to play the Vikings? The Chargers. They're probably going to do the same thing. You got to come grind it out, but you're probably going to get the win. That's what it is playing the Vikings there. So big time win for the Ravens coming off the bye. That's a good comeback for them. Good momentum. Chargers and Eagles. This is a good game. I like this game. I like this type of game. It's a very entertaining game. It felt like, even though I don't think most of us expected it, it felt like an even matchup. Both teams played well here offensively. Zero turnovers in this game for both teams, and very little penalties. It's just a great game here. Again, defenses could play a little better. You're trying to figure out the big reason the Eagles lost. It's not really obvious. It's kind of the Chargers had the ball last. Technically they kick off in 2 seconds, but you get my point. It's kind of what it was. The Eagles defense, you can blame that a little bit, kind of giving up crucial moments, giving up the big plays, the big yards, but they were playing pretty tough early. They stayed that goal line stand on 4th down, the goal line stand in general there. But, yeah, it's a good game. Whoever had the ball last was going to win. Not the greatest defense. The Chargers got a real problem stopping a run. It was weird in this game, too, because, watching this game, I'm like, I heard Jalen Hurts is playing well, throwing the ball well, and we know he's going to run well. But getting out space, throwing the ball well, hit Devontae Smith, had a great game. That was awesome. And looking at the numbers, which I don't base things off the numbers, but looking at the numbers, it's like, I thought Hurts threw the ball a lot more and had a lot more yards, Where he threw the ball 17 times at 100 and so yards. He felt like he had a way better game than that. I thought he had a good game, but I guess that's kind of like, he was slaying the ball pretty well. Could they have thrown the ball more and could have got the job done? You could say that, but then they would have taken away from some runs. You have to run the ball on the Chargers because they're so weak at stopping the run, and the Eagles were very effective running the ball. Jordan Howard was effective; they were very effective. So I don't know if you really can blame him for that. But yeah, Hurts was throwing the ball pretty well. Devontae Smith had a pretty big game. They ran the ball well. It's just where the ball last. They could put the blame on the defense, but wherever the ball last, the Chargers clutched up when they needed to. Herbert throwing the ball pretty well. The receivers picked it up at the end of the game. I've had a problem with the receivers portion of this year. In that first drive, the goal line stand, Mike Williams drops the ball on 3rd down, and Keenan Allen runs his route short on 4th down. Just things that shouldn't happen, but they really picked it up then. Eckler was making big plays. Yeah, at the end of the game, that Eckler run to get that 1st down, that was kind of an and long situation that ended up running. That was kind of the play. That was kind of where the Eagles defense kind of messed up. No presence in the middle there. So the linebacker position is at fault there, which has been a consistent problem for the Eagles, and they get rid of Eric Wilson. So that was a major play. That was the big play of the game, I thought. I thought that moment. Chargers run defense, it's so bad. Something's got to be fixed there. But there was a moment. I think Brandon Staley is a great defensive coach. I think it's pretty obvious. But there was a moment where I thought it was a pretty bad moment for him. I can't remember what quarter it was in. I want to say second quarter. It could have been the third quarter. So it's somewhere in there. But everyone will remember if you watch the game. Eagles are in the red zone. Jalen Hurts in shotgun. Chargers had 3 down linemen, defensive linemen, nose guard, and then 2 guys off the edge. I think we had about 1 linebacker in there. The secondary is really spread out. I know the Eagles kind of forced that, so credit to them. They spread some guys out. But it was just like, there's so much field in front of me. There's so much room for activities, So Jalen Hurts just took the snap and went, and it was just free yards. I mean, free. If you look up free in the dictionary, you're going to be a picture of that in there. And there ain't no pictures in the dictionary. So that was confusing from Staley there. I mean, maybe it's a moment you call a timeout and you figure something out there because they spread the ball out, they spread the field out so much horizontally. I don't know. That was weird. But Chargers do get the job done. They clutched up, in the big moments. Again, that Eckler run at the end, that was huge. Be able to waste more time. Going for it on 4th down previously, right before that, was huge too. I expect them to get that there. I mean, it would have been a lot of panic if the Chargers lost that game, because another game, they lose, in a row. So they clutch it up and win that game there. That's big for them. Packers-Chiefs, it's a negative day for the Packers because they lost, but is it weird that I think, not for the future, I mean, for the future this year, for the rest of this year, I might actually think more highly of the Packers. I can debate that actually, but I kind of do mainly because their defense has been very good. They had a great game plan against the Cardinals, and they just dominated the Cardinals in the first half. That's why they won the game. They go out here and dominate the Chiefs. They only scored 13 points. So that kind of pair that and then put Aaron Rodgers. I think we're all in agreement if Aaron Rodgers plays this game, the Packers win easily, but they didn't. That's not what happened. So, but it's still a good sign for the future. But then again, at the same time, there's other teams that have kind of a backup quarterback come in and they still can win a game, especially when the other team's playing poorly. So does that show that, maybe they could add some things here and there? So you could look at it that way as well. But this team back with Rodgers back and then some of their star defenders back could be very scary. So it's kind of something you take away from this game. I guess the negative is they lost. It could have been a winnable game. And then the Jordan Love for the future, being the future kind of up in the air. What if Rodgers, still up in the air, not looking promised. What if Rodgers does leave next year, might be in big trouble. So that kind of, they're going to have to get him back, and they very well could. So that's kind of the negative there as well. But impressed with the Packers defense here. Something I got right and something I got wrong here in this game, because I said, when I switched my pick to the Chiefs, I'm like, saying the Chiefs offense will kind of take the small ball approach. You look at with the Cardinals versus the Packers. The Cardinals are trying to play long ball like they normally do in the first half. The Packers game plan for it, shut it down. The Cardinals had to adjust to playing quick small ball in the second half, and that's kind of what gave them the boost offense. Chiefs, they play long ball, but teams have been taking that away. They got to look at the film, look at the Packers, and they got to play the small ball. And that's what I said would happen. It's exactly what happened. But either the Chiefs would have success doing that. Either they would have success doing that, kind of like the Cardinals did in the second half against the Packers. Either the Packers would be too worried about the long ball, But that wasn't the case. The Packers defense stopped them. They played well. The Chiefs, it's just the small ball don't look good with the Chiefs. Don't look right. They definitely need another receiver or somebody in there. They didn't need Clyde Edwards-Helaire back for sure. So not the best game for the Chiefs offense. They started strong, but not the best game from them. But they get the job done. Credit to the defense. The defense, when you get an unexperienced quarterback in there, you blitz them. You blitz them. That's what they did. So they had some good blitz calls there. Got pressure, forced incompletions. Love could have been a lot worse. People bash him a little bit, but it could have been a lot worse. How many times he got blitzed? He only got sacked once. I know he really couldn't complete the passes. It was kind of a bland game. I guess he could have done more, but it wasn't a terrible game. I know he did. There was some receivers open at times, and he didn't see them. Again, under pressure on the blitz. Packers probably could have ran the ball more, because it should have been, maybe they got outsmarted themselves thinking that the Chiefs knew it was too obvious, but you probably should have ran the ball a little more. You were down 13-0 most of this game, but it wasn't, you're still in striking distance. You definitely can come back. So I don't know. Chiefs got to be better offensively. Defense stepped up. They should step up in a game like this. The Packers, I think they'll be fine with Aaron Rodgers here. But it's always tough to lose in that game. So the Chiefs play the Raiders on Sunday Night Football. A totally different matchup there. We'll see what happens in that game. Cardinals 49ers. No Kyler Murray. No DeAndre Hopkins. Colt McCoy's in there. 49ers can't take care of business still. Cardinals just dominating a game like that. Shows the Cliff Kingsbury's. The system they put in place and the play calling, fantastic. Absolutely fantastic because it's looking like I could go play quarterback there, not really, but you get my point. It looks like, that it's just the system is just so hard to game plan for teams like the 49ers. It's so hard to stop. They can throw so many things at you. They spread the field vertically and horizontally. They can run the football. They can throw the football with James Conner. James Conner has been great this year. Running so tough, good in space too, which we're not, athletically and making people miss. And it feels like he's got a lot more speed and quickness, some things we're not used to seeing. He's been fantastic for them. Edmonds did get hurt, so it's a little concerning. It's a good thing they got James Conner in there. He's been fantastic. Colt McCoy did what he needed to do. He had a pretty damn good game there, and they just made big plays. They had these explosive plays, and the defense clutching up, forcing fumbles, in just big and crucial situations, short yards, with big third downs, whatever it may be, just coming up big. It's just what the Cardinals been doing this year, and it's kind of a sign of we already knew they were a really good team, but it's really like a confirming sign of a very good team because they're able to do this with backups in, and they were able to look kind of the same with backups in, which is pretty crazy, and impressive there. So, and the 49ers able to move the ball early. Kittle fumbles. Cardinals take advantage, and then Ayuk makes a really good catch. He got up on that play, gets up, fumbles, and then it's just those fumbles, I guess, were pretty crucial, pretty costly, I should say, and the Cardinals taking advantage there. 49ers defense is just nowhere near the same as what it used to be. Tackling is a big problem, but it's always only one guy, and one guy's going to poorly miss a tackle, and that's bad, but the big problem is where are the other guys at? Where are they at, Guys getting run over. I'm not, even with the stars in this team, I'm not really thrilled with them. I'm not really thrilled with guys like Fred Warner this year. Some people will disagree. I watch a lot of football. I like what I see. I'm disappointed. So some of these guys that are big, they're supposed to be big name guys. They got to step up. They're not stepping up. They got to step up. So just poor play all around. I said this on Twitter too. Garoppolo doesn't have a ton of time. You wish he had more time. But there's a lot of times where he kind of acts like he has zero time, like he starts panicking a little bit. So quarterback play is pretty poor there. Making mistakes was the big part of this, but even if they didn't make those mistakes, I think the Cardinals were still scoring, whenever they wanted to, pretty much. That's kind of what it felt like. It's just the 49ers weren't flying to the ball. One guy at a time was poorly missing a tackle. The secondary is pretty bad. So it's not looking good for the 49ers. They just look like a bad football team right now. They looked promising as the Bears last week. That's the Bears, So not the greatest look for them. It's kind of a surprising Sunday night game. Titans without Derrick Henry. If Titans had Derrick Henry, I said it during the week, I was definitely picking the Titans in this game. But how are they going to be without him? And they still look pretty good. They didn't really do a whole lot on offense, and they clutched up in big moments, I suppose. But the defense was outstanding in this game. The Titans' defense is a lot better than expected. People thought it was kind of going to be the same defense as last year when they kind of revamped it, so that was weird that people thought that. And they still can give up some yards through the air, but they're very good at game planning, and they got some big-time players out there, and that showed in this game. Really, it really shouldn't be, I guess, that shocking if you look at it, and that's kind of the reason I was going to pick the Titans if Henry was playing, because the Rams, the last loss they had was against the Cardinals. That's the last big team they played, and they got absolutely dominated in that game. They got absolutely dominated with the game plan and just get outplayed on both sides of the ball. But the Cardinals had a great defensive game plan for the Cardinals. They kind of just took away their deep ball. They were able to get some pressure on Stafford, just throw them off their game, make them change their game, and that was great for the Cardinals. It's starting to show people that maybe this Rams team, maybe against these big-time teams, they're not as good as we thought. Kind of thinking that, not a fact, thinking that. And then they go play the Seahawks. Sloppy game remember that Thursday night game, sloppy game from both teams. The Rams didn't particularly look good in that game. Russell Wilson also got hurt. They go win. They play the Giants, they play the Lions, and they play the Texans. Since that Cardinals game, that's who they played. The Seahawks, Giants, Lions, and Texans. That's who they played. So, and now they play a good team, the Titans, and then we kind of get some similarities to that Cardinals game. Just not as much explosion on offense as the Cardinals, but they still win the game there. So maybe that's a little bit of a problem for the Rams. The teams that know how to game plan, the good teams here, they got to pick it up a little bit. They do have that Bucs win that was very early in the season, but and then something I'm realizing too, that the Titans dominated in their defensive line dominated. They were beating up this Rams offensive line, which people view. I always said it wasn't as good as people said, but people view it's still supposed to be a good offensive line. But something I noticed is interior defensive line. Do they have a problem with very good interior defensive line? Jeffrey Simmons, 3 sacks. Danico Autry was a monster. Pass deflections, getting sacked, getting after the quarterback, getting the pressure. And I'm looking at the other games they played, the Rams, that is. Were there any other teams that presented a good interior defensive line in terms of pressure? Not talking about run stopping ability, but pressure. Haven't really seen that, and that was a major problem in this game. I think they had a little bit of problems against the Cardinals there, so that could be a weakness for the Rams, is kind of that interior pressure. Good news is I actually looked ahead of the schedule for the Rams. They don't really see any of that. Ravens maybe late in the season, but so that's kind of the good news for the Rams, because that actually could be a little bit of a weakness there for their interior offensive line. Stafford wasn't good. He wasn't good under pressure. Through that, made that mistake. The Titans kind of forced that 2 weeks in a row with Wentz and Stafford. You're getting sacked and you kind of just whip the ball directly to is that David Long, I believe. It just can't happen. Then he comes back and throws the pick to, it was like Kevin Byard there, who's been a pick six, who's been a monster this year, the best safety in football. So Titans defense really stepping up. The Rams struggled there. They had to go off, second half they started playing, kind of running that McVay/Goff offense with a lot more play action, a lot more outside zone, a lot more boots, and it worked. It's a good offense for the right quarterbacks, and it worked for protecting. Just threw off the Titans a little bit, but you can see the Stafford's not really a play action boot type guy. Didn't really, you can kind of see that. So it's interesting. Looks like you can game plan for the Rams. Yeah, I mean, they're going to be a good team. The rest of the schedule is very favorable. They're going to end up with a very good record. Just how will they be in those big games in the playoffs? I'm just kind of thinking ahead. It kind of shows how good they are. They're going to be set. They're going to be in the playoffs. They're fighting with the Cards for that division. I guess that's maybe the worry if you're a fan. You want to win that division, obviously. But I'm thinking ahead of the playoffs. How will they be when they got a match? Because it's all about game plan. All about game plan in the playoffs. Better game plan usually wins because it's all evenly very good teams. So how will they be going against those teams? You start to worry a little bit. They'll get Von Miller, hopefully get him going. That's really not the problem in a game like this, or a game like the Cardinals game, though. It's not really the problem. So it's a big-time win for the Titans. It just looks like a tough team to play. Tough team without Derrick Henry in there. They still get the job done. Tannehill could be a little better. He's had some bad interceptions this year. Got to get outside. I've been saying that. He's not getting outside the pocket for some reason. Sometimes he has a clean pocket. He finally has a clean pocket. Get outside the pocket. Get going. Don't stay in one spot. But they get the job. He made some crucial tight window throws when he needed to. Had that rushing touchdown. Leonard Floyd took out Aaron Donald on that play on fourth down. Maybe Aaron Donald could have tracked down Tannehill. It would have been interesting to see what would happen. Yeah, but not, Sunday night in LA, not a good one for the Rams there. A little concerning about when they play the top teams. Can they out game plan instead of getting out game plan, So, yeah, that's a tough one for the Rams there. Just got they got outplayed more in the score showed as well. So the Titans that's an impressive one for the Titans there. But that's going to wrap it up for the recap for Week 9, Sunday's games. Week 9, we got a Monday night game tonight. Steelers-Bears, should be some defense in that one. We'll be talking live during it on Twitter, so check us out there. Link down below. Like, subscribe, turn notifications on. Full NFL coverage here. And we got a lot more coming. Halfway through the season type content. Always do that with playoff predictions and more. So join us for that. It's going to do it, though. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.